The content provided in this video and on our website is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as, and translates to, legal advice, professional instruction, OR management direction. CamWise is not acting as your legal counsel, OR assuming liability for actions taken based on this content. For specific legal interpretations of your association's CC&RS and state laws, always consult a qualified attorney.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the high-stakes financial reality of suing your homeowners association to figure out if it's actually worth the immense risk. You know, it's a question a lot of frustrated homeowners face. When the board oversteps, do you take them to court? Well, today we're going to break down the cold, hard math of HOA litigation, look at when it actually works, and help you decide if pulling the trigger on a lawsuit will save your home or just result in total financial ruin.
So here is our roadmap. We'll start with some real-world homeowner battles, explore the great HOA Catch-22, define the valid legal grounds to sue, walk through your steps before filing, and then end with a highly practical is it worth it checklist. Section 1. David versus the HOA. Real-world homeowner victories. Let's start by looking at the stark financial contrast between a petty neighborhood squabble and genuine property damage. On one hand, you have something like a $500 fine because a yard sign is 4 inches too wide. On the other hand, you have $40,000 in damage from a neglected roof collapse. This contrast truly dictates whether you should even be considering court. I mean, suing over a $500 fine will probably cost you $5,000 in legal fees just to argue it. Litigation really only makes sense when the financial cost, time, and emotional toll are heavily outweighed by the sheer severity of the situation.
And if you want to talk about severity, this $7.8 million number brilliantly illustrates the massive stakes when boards act maliciously. This comes from a wild case in Santa Clara, California. Homeowners found an abandoned agricultural well sitting right beneath their condos, which was causing severe structural issues. But instead of fixing it, the HOA engaged in a years-long cover-up, literally lying to the residents. The judge was so appalled by this deception that they awarded the homeowners $1.8 million in damages and then tacked on an extra $6 million in attorney fees just to penalize the HOA's malicious behavior.
Looking across other historic legal victories, we see very specific scenarios that justify taking action. In Carlsbad, California, an HOA neglected a hillside drainage system that they were legally required to maintain. The slope collapsed, totally destroying a family's home, and a jury awarded them $2.6 million for property loss and negligence. Or take the Colorado case, where an HOA approved a disabled veteran's widened driveway, but then backtracked and told him to tear it out. The veteran won because it was a clear violation of the Fair Housing Act, and honestly, the HOA couldn't even prove the property lines. So yes, homeowners absolutely can win when they have undeniable proof of massive negligence or clear discrimination.
Section 2. The great HOA Catch-22. The financial irony of litigation.
Now we have to talk about the agonizing irony of this whole process. You are essentially suing yourself. Think about it. The HOA's legal defense is funded entirely by your community's dues. So if you sue them, a portion of your monthly assessments is quite literally paying the hourly rate of the defense attorney who is fighting against you. And worse, if the HOA loses and their insurance doesn't cover the massive payout, the board might have to levy a special assessment. That means all homeowners, including you, have to chip in to pay off the judgment.
You also have to deeply understand fee shifting, which is often called a prevailing party clause. It's basically a legal rule or a clause in your CC&Rs stating that the loser of a lawsuit pays the winner's legal fees. Think of it like a high-stakes winner-takes-all poker game, where the loser doesn't just lose their own chips, they have to pay off the winner's mortgage. If your case is just a toss-up and you lose, you could be forced to pay tens of thousands of dollars for the HOA's lawyers right on top of your own.
Just look at the fallout from the Farron case in Virginia. We mentioned earlier that the homeowners technically won this case over illegal yard sign fines. But because of a prevailing party clause, the HOA had to pay massive legal fees for both sides. The debt was so astronomically high that the HOA had to raise neighborhood dues from $650 to $3,500 a year. It drove the entire association into bankruptcy. The homeowners won the battle, for sure, but their community was financially destroyed in the process.
Section 3. Valid legal grounds to sue. Building an airtight case.
So you can't just sue because a board member is rude, right? You need specific legally recognized grounds. First, there's a breach of covenants, like if the board selectively enforces rules against you but ignores everyone else. Second, failure to maintain common areas. This is stuff that leads to uninhabitable conditions like toxic black mold or a rotting structural balcony. Third, a breach of fiduciary duty. If board members are misappropriating funds or, say, hiring an uninsured relative's roofing company, they can be sued. But you have to have the exact financial audits to prove that self-dealing. And finally, discrimination under the Fair Housing Act or the need for an emergency injunction to stop something immediate and irreversible, like a wrongful foreclosure threat.
But listen, to win on any of those grounds, you need undeniable proof. You can't just walk into a courtroom with a grievance. You have to essentially become an investigator. You must gather a rigorous, airtight paper trail of every single email, fine notice, engineering report, and photograph to substantiate your claims. If the HOA failed to fix a leaking common area roof that caused $40,000 in damage to your place, you absolutely need the emails proving that they ignored your repeated requests.
Section 4. Steps before filing a lawsuit. Exhausting your alternatives.
Before you even think about calling a real estate attorney, you have to follow this pre-litigation timeline. Day 1. Read your CC&Rs and meticulously document exactly which rule the HOA is violating. Week 1. Gather that undeniable paper trail we just talked about. By month 1, it is absolutely critical that you check your governing documents for Mandatory Alternative Dispute Resolution, or ADR. Many states actually legally require you to attempt mediation or arbitration before you are even allowed to file a lawsuit. And finally, by month 3, try political action. I promise you, it is almost always cheaper, faster, and way less toxic to band together with your neighbors and simply vote the problematic board out of office rather than taking them to court.
Section 5. Is it worth it checklist. The final mental math.
Okay, this is the ultimate decision point. I want you to run your situation through this specific 3-step checklist. Step 1, assess the financial gap. Are your actual financial damages significantly higher than what a lawyer is going to cost you? Step 2, defeat shifting certainty. Look closely at your state laws and your CC&Rs. If the loser pays the winner's fees, is your case absolutely bulletproof, or is it a toss-up? Because if it's a toss-up, you risk paying for both sides. And step 3, your exit strategy. Are you planning to live here for the next 10 years? Suing your neighbors might make your daily life an absolute nightmare. On the flip side, if you're trying to sell and the HOA is actively blocking you, well, litigation becomes much more viable.
You really have to keep in mind the sheer scale of the financial commitment here. Lawsuits against an HOA can easily cost anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 or more, and they drag on for months, sometimes years. Taking a step back to honestly assess the mental math on our checklist is absolutely critical before you act out of pure frustration.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, you have to ask yourself this final, provocative question before pulling the trigger. Are you fighting for your home's actual survival, or are you just fighting your neighbors? Because if it's the latter, the risk of total bankruptcy might just not be worth it. Check your CC&Rs, weigh the math, and whatever you do, decide your next move carefully.